Defeat seemed inevitable and I was ready to die, and the humans changed everything, but not the way the stories say. The stories say the humans turned the tide, won the unwinnable battle, snatched victory from defeat. That is not what happened. We did not win that battle. We lost it. The humans did not change defeat into victory. They changed what defeat meant, and that was a far stranger and more important thing. And it took a people who glorified dying to teach a people who glorified dying that there was something braver than a glorious death. And I am alive to tell you this only because the humans taught it to me in time. Let me tell you who the Threnn are, because you cannot understand what the humans changed without understanding what we believed. The Threnn are a warrior people. That was our whole identity, our pride, the thing we were, warriors who fought and whose highest glory was to die fighting. We had a code, ancient and absolute, and the heart of the code was this: death before defeat. A Threnn did not surrender. A Threnn did not retreat. A Threnn who could not win fought to the death, because to die fighting was the highest honor and to live defeated was the deepest shame. And our whole history was a long song of glorious last stands, of Threnn who had held hopeless positions to the last soldier, who had chosen death over the dishonor of withdrawal, who had made of their own annihilation a monument to Threnn courage. We taught our young these songs. We measured ourselves against them. And when the war came, the war we were losing, the war against an empire stronger than us, we met it the way the code demanded, with the willingness to die, certain that if we could not win we would at least die gloriously, and that dying gloriously was enough. We were losing. I want to be honest about how badly. The empire we fought was stronger than us in every material way, more ships, more soldiers, more of everything. And across the long campaign they had pushed us back, world by world, position by position, until we came to the battle I am telling you about, the battle for a world that was, by then, one of our last. And we knew, going into it, that we could not win. The forces arrayed against us were overwhelming. The position was untenable. By every calculation of war, the battle was lost before it began, and the world would fall, and the Threnn defending it would die. And we were glad. That is the thing I most need you to understand, because it is the thing the humans changed. We were glad in the terrible way of the Threnn code, because a battle we could not win was a chance to die gloriously, and dying gloriously was the highest thing a Threnn could do. We did not plan to save the world. We knew we could not. We did not plan to save ourselves. The code forbade retreat. We planned to die, to make a last stand, a glorious, hopeless last stand, to hold the falling world to the last Threnn, and add our names to the long song of Threnn who had chosen death over defeat. The civilians of the world had been evacuated, mostly. What remained was the army, and the army's purpose was not to win or to survive, but to die well, to make the empire pay for the world in blood, to fall in a way that the Threnn would sing about for 1,000 years. I was a line officer and I was ready. I had made my peace with my death. I had embraced it the way the code taught. I stood with my soldiers in the doomed position and I prepared to die gloriously, and I was, in the strange way of my people, content. Defeat seemed inevitable, and inevitable defeat meant a glorious death, and a glorious death was what I had trained my whole life to achieve. I did not want to be saved. I did not want to win. I wanted to die well, and I was about to get my wish. And then the human soldiers entered the battle, and everything changed. The humans were our allies, newly so, drawn into the war on our side, and this was the first time Threnn and humans had fought together. They arrived in the doomed battle with their own forces, and we welcomed them the way the Threnn welcome fellow warriors, expecting them to do what we were doing, to join the glorious last stand, to die gloriously beside us, to add their names to the song. And the humans looked at our doomed position, our untenable battle, our certain defeat, and they did a thing that baffled and then offended and then transformed me, because it was the opposite of everything the Threnn code held sacred. The humans started planning the retreat. I have to tell you how this struck me in the moment, because the striking is the whole story. A human officer, A woman named Colonel Sarah Vega, who commanded the human force, came to our command position, and she looked at the battle and she said, in the plain way humans said things, "This position's lost. We can't hold it, you know that, I know that. So let's talk about how we get everyone out. Get everyone out." I did not understand the words at first. They did not fit any framework the Threnn code had given me. Get everyone out. There was no getting out. There was only the last stand, the glorious death, the holding of the doomed position to the end. Retreat was not a thing the Threnn did. Retreat was the deepest shame, worse than death, the one thing the code forbade absolutely. And here was a human officer, in the middle of our glorious doomed battle, calmly proposing the unthinkable, that we should withdraw, save ourselves, get everyone out, abandon the last stand for the dishonor of survival. I was offended. I told her so. I told her that the Threnn did not retreat, that we would hold the position to the death, that we would die gloriously as the code demanded, and that if the humans wished to flee, that was their shame, but the Threnn would stay and die. I said it with the full pride of my people, the pride of a warrior choosing a glorious death over a shameful life, certain that the human would see the nobility of it, the courage, the honor. And Colonel Vega looked at me, not with contempt, not with the disdain I half expected, but with something that looked almost like grief. And she said the thing that began to change everything, the thing I have carried ever since. She said, "I'm not asking you to flee. I'm asking you to live. There's a difference, and it's the most important difference there is, and I think your code has taught you to confuse them. You think the choice here is between a glorious death and a shameful life, but that's not the choice. The choice is between your soldiers dying for nothing on a position that's going to fall anyway, or your soldiers living to fight another day, on better ground, where their lives might actually matter. You call retreat shameful. I call throwing away soldiers who could have lived the real shame. Your people are going to die here gloriously, and the world is going to fall anyway, and in 1,000 years you'll have a beautiful song about it. And every soldier in that song will be dead when they could have lived, when they could have gone home, when they could have fought a battle they could actually win instead of dying for one they couldn't. That's not glory. That's waste. And I won't watch it happen if I can stop it. That's not glory, that's waste." No one had ever said such a thing to a Threnn. No one had ever dared. The whole of our code, the whole of our identity, rested on the glory of the last stand, on the nobility of death before defeat. And here was a human, calmly, grievingly, naming our highest glory as waste, naming our noble death as the throwing away of soldiers who could have lived. I should have been furious. Part of me was furious. But part of me, the part that had stood in too many doomed positions, that had watched too many Threnn die gloriously in battles that changed nothing, that had sung too many songs about the beautiful dead, part of me heard her, and could not unhear her, because underneath my fury was a question I had never been permitted to ask. What if she was right? What if the glory was waste? What if death before defeat was not the highest courage, but the deepest failure? The failure to imagine that defeat did not have to mean death, that you could lose a battle and live, that getting your people home alive might be braver than dying gloriously to hold a position that would fall the moment you were dead. That is where this story begins. Defeat seemed inevitable, and the Threnn code said inevitable defeat meant a glorious death, and we were ready to die, until human soldiers entered the battle and proposed the one thing the Threnn had never imagined, the thing our code called shame and the humans called survival, that we should lose the battle and live, instead of losing the battle and dying. I will tell you what the humans did, and how they changed everything, not by winning the unwinnable battle, but by teaching a people who worshipped glorious death that there is something the songs had never sung, something braver than a beautiful last stand, which is the hard and humble courage to get everyone you can off the falling world alive, and fight again, on ground where their lives might mean something more than a verse in a song about the dead. I did not agree to the retreat, not at first and not easily, because you do not undo a lifetime of the code in an afternoon, and the Threnn part of me, the part raised on the songs, the part that had made its peace with a glorious death, That part fought Colonel Vega's words harder than it had ever fought the Empire. But I have to tell you what changed my mind, because it was not an argument. The Threnn cannot be argued out of the code. The code is older than argument. What changed my mind was watching the humans fight, and seeing, for the first time, a kind of courage the Threnn songs had never imagined. The courage I had been taught to call cowardice, and was about to learn was braver than anything in our long, glorious history of the beautiful dead. The humans did not flee. That is the thing I had expected, the thing the code had taught me to expect from anyone who spoke of retreat. That to retreat was to run, to abandon, to save your own skin at the cost of your honor. And what the humans did was the opposite of fleeing. They fought hard, fought brilliantly, fought with a discipline and a ferocity that the Threnn, who pride ourselves on our fighting, could only admire. But they fought for a different purpose than we had ever fought for. We fought to die well. The humans fought to get everyone out. And fighting to get everyone out, I learned, watching them, is harder than fighting to die well, requires more courage, not less, because it means fighting without the comfort of the glorious end, fighting the long, ugly, grinding fight of the withdrawal, holding the line not to make a beautiful last stand but to buy time for the wounded and the slow and the trapped to get clear, dying if you must but not wanting to, never wanting to, fighting to live and to get others to live, which is the hardest fight there is. I watched Colonel Vega's soldiers conduct the withdrawal, and it was the most courageous thing I had ever seen, and there was not a song in it anywhere. They held the rearguard, the most dangerous position, the position that would be overrun, the position where soldiers die, and they held it not gloriously but grimly, not to make a monument but to buy minutes that let the rest of us pull back, pull the wounded out, get the army moving toward the ships that could carry us off the falling world. The humans in the rearguard knew they might die, some of them did die. But they did not die gloriously, did not die for a song, did not die to prove their courage. They died when they died to buy time for others to live, and they fought every second to survive while they did it, because their purpose was not death but life, the lives of everyone they were covering, and they would spend their own lives only as dearly as they had to and not 1 second sooner, because a life thrown away early was a life that could have bought more time, saved more others, mattered more. That was the thing that broke the code in me. Watching the humans fight to live, fight to get everyone out, fight the grim, unglamorous fight of the withdrawal, I understood that the Threnn code had it exactly backward. We thought dying gloriously was the brave thing and surviving was the shameful thing. But the humans were braver than us, and they were trying to survive, and they were getting everyone out, and there was no shame in it anywhere, only courage. A harder courage than ours, because our courage had the comfort of the end, the release of the glorious death, while theirs had to keep going, keep fighting, keep carrying the wounded and holding the line and buying the minutes, with no beautiful death to look forward to, only the grinding work of getting as many as possible home alive. The Threnn died to escape the hard thing. The humans lived to do it. And living to do the hard thing, I finally understood, was braver than dying to escape it. I gave the order to withdraw. It was the hardest order I ever gave, and the most shameful by the code I had lived my whole life by, and the bravest thing I ever did, and all three of those are true. I went to my soldiers, my Threnn, ready to die gloriously, content in their doom, and I told them we were not going to die here. I told them what the humans had shown me, that defeat did not have to mean death, that we could lose the world alive, that getting our people off the falling world alive was not the shame the code called it but a courage the code had never imagined. And I watched my words land on them the way Vega's had landed on me, the fury first, the offense, the deep Threnn revulsion at the idea of retreat, and then in some of them the same dawning question I had felt, what if the glory was waste? What if survival was the braver thing? Not all of them could hear it. I want to be honest about that because it is the hard part. Some of my Threnn could not let go of the code, could not accept that retreat was anything but shame, would rather die gloriously than live with the dishonor of withdrawal. And I could not make them come. The code was too deep in them. The songs had too strong a hold. And in the end, some of my soldiers stayed, made their last stand, died gloriously on the falling world, because they could not be argued or ordered out of a lifetime of believing that a beautiful death was the highest thing. I grieve them. I grieve that I could not save them, that the code killed them as surely as the empire did, that they died for a song when they could have lived for a future. But I saved the ones I could, the ones who could hear the new thing, who could imagine that survival was not shame, and we withdrew, fighting, alongside the humans toward the ships. And the empire let us go. That is a thing I have to explain because it surprised me and it is part of what I learned. We had expected in the Threnn way that withdrawal would be a rout, a slaughter, the enemy falling on our exposed backs as we fled. But the humans did not let it become a rout because the humans did not flee. They withdrew, which is a different thing, an ordered fighting withdrawal, the rearguard holding, the line never breaking, the army pulling back in good order under the protection of soldiers who fought to cover them. A rout is a slaughter. A withdrawal is a battle, a hard, controlled battle fought backward, and the humans knew how to fight it, knew how to give ground without giving lives, knew how to lose a position without losing an army. And the empire, which had expected to annihilate us in our glorious last stand, found instead that we were leaving, in good order, fighting, covered, escaping, and that annihilating a fighting withdrawal is far harder and far costlier than crushing a static last stand. And so they let us go rather than pay the price of stopping us, and the army that should have died gloriously on the falling world instead got off it alive, to fight another day on better ground, where our lives might mean something. That is where part 2 ends, with the code broken and remade, the withdrawal that was braver than any last stand, the soldiers I saved and the soldiers I could not, and an army that should have died escaping alive under the protection of humans who fought to live rather than to die. In part 3, I will tell you what became of the Threnn who lived, what we did with the lives the humans taught us to save, whether we won the war in the end, and what became of the code, the old code of death before defeat, when a people who worshipped glorious death learned that survival could be the bravest thing. And the last thing Colonel Vega taught me, the line officer who learned to retreat, about why getting everyone home alive is the only victory that the songs forget to sing, and the only one that actually matters. We won the war. I want to tell you that, because it is the vindication of everything the humans taught us, and because the Threnn who died gloriously on the falling world died believing the war was lost, and they were wrong, and the only reason they were wrong is that the rest of us lived to prove it. We won the war, not on that world, which fell, which we lost, which we let fall in order to save the army that would win everything that came after, but in the long campaign that followed, the campaign we could only fight because we had not died on the world we could not hold. I have to explain how the survival won the war, because it is the thing the Threnn code could never have understood, and the thing the humans understood in their bones. The empire we fought was stronger than us, and in a war of glorious last stands, the stronger side always wins, because every last stand spends the lives of the defenders to no purpose. Every beautiful death subtracts a soldier from the weaker side and changes nothing about the strength of the stronger, until the weaker side has gloriously died itself into extinction, while the stronger side, having paid some price, still stands. The Threnn code was a code for losing wars beautifully. It was a machine for converting our soldiers into songs, and songs do not win wars, and a people who meets a stronger enemy with a code of death before defeat is a people who has chosen, without knowing it, to die. The humans taught us the other way, the way of the weaker side that actually wins. You do not spend your soldiers on glorious deaths. You preserve them. You give ground you cannot hold. You withdraw from positions you cannot keep. You lose the battles you cannot win. And you keep your army alive, intact, fighting across all the losing, until the day comes when the balance shifts, when the enemy overextends, when the ground favors you, when the moment arrives that the weaker side has been waiting and surviving for. And then you strike, with the army you preserved through all the losing, and you win the battle that matters because you were still alive to fight it. The Threnn had never won a war against a stronger enemy in all our glorious history, because we had always died before we reached the battle that mattered. The humans taught us to survive to it. And we did, and we reached it, and we won it, because we were still alive. The army that should have died on the falling world, preserved through 100 withdrawals, still fighting on the day the war turned. The world we let fall was the price. I do not pretend it was not a price. We lost it. The people who could not be evacuated suffered under the Empire's occupation until we freed them. The Threnn who stayed to make their last stand died for nothing, or for a song, which by then I had learned was the same as nothing. The price of the new way was real, and I carry it. But the alternative was not saving the world. The world was going to fall regardless. The battle was lost before it began. That was never in question. The alternative was losing the world and the army, dying gloriously and letting the war be lost, adding our beautiful deaths to the long Threnn song of weaker peoples who met stronger enemies and chose death, and were duly, gloriously, pointlessly destroyed. The humans did not cost us the world. The world was already lost. The humans saved us the army, and the army won the war, and the war won back the world. And everything we won because we were alive to win it, which we would not have been if we had died gloriously the way the code demanded. The code changed. That is the deepest thing that came of it, deeper even than the war. Because a people does not easily give up the thing it has worshipped, and the Threnn had worshipped glorious death for all our history, and the humans had shown us it was a code for losing. But showing a people their error and getting them to change are different things, and the change was hard and slow and is not finished even now. But it began. The songs began to change. We began to sing not only of the glorious dead, but of the wise survivors, of the officers who withdrew and lived and won, of the soldiers who chose the future over the beautiful death, of the hard, humble courage of getting everyone home alive. It is a stranger kind of song, and the old Threnn find it harder to love than the songs of the beautiful dead, because there is no glorious climax in it, no monument, only the long, grinding courage of survival and the quiet victory of a people who lived. But it is a truer song, and it is the song of a people who win their wars instead of dying beautifully in them, and the young Threnn are growing up on it now. And they will not die the way my soldiers died on the falling world, for a song about the dead, when they could have lived to be a song about the living. I saw Colonel Vega again, after the war, when the Threnn and the humans had won it together, and the world we let fall had been freed. And I thanked her for the withdrawal, for the lives she taught me to save, for breaking a code that had been quietly killing my people for our whole history. And I asked her the question I most needed answered, the question that had haunted me since the falling world. I asked, how did humanity learn it? You are warriors too. I have seen you fight. You have your own courage and your own honor. How did you learn that survival is braver than a glorious death, when every warrior people I have ever known believes the opposite? And Colonel Vega gave me the answer that is the end of this story, the thing I have carried ever since. She said, we learned it the same way you're learning it, by losing. By dying beautifully over and over in our own history, until we noticed that the beautiful deaths weren't saving anyone. We have our own songs about glorious last stands, you know. We love them too. There's something in us, maybe in every people, that wants the beautiful death, the noble end, the monument. But we learned slowly at a terrible cost that the songs lie, that the glorious last stand feels like the brave thing but is usually the easy thing, the escape, the way out of the hard grinding work of surviving and protecting and getting everyone home. Dying for a cause is easy, living for it is hard. Any fool can die gloriously. It takes a real soldier to do the unglamorous work of keeping people alive, of giving ground, of swallowing your pride and withdrawing, so that the people you're responsible for get to see another day. We didn't learn that survival is brave because we're cowards. We learned it because we finally understood that the people we were protecting needed us alive, not dead, and that a soldier's job isn't to die beautifully, it's to protect, and you can't protect anyone if you're dead for a song. The bravest thing isn't to die for the people you love, it's to live for them. To do the long, hard, unglamorous work of keeping them safe, with no monument at the end, just the quiet fact that they're alive because you chose to live and protect instead of die and be sung about. She paused. Defeat seemed inevitable. It was. You did lose that battle, but losing a battle was never the same as dying, and getting everyone you could off that world alive was the bravest thing your people had ever done. It just wasn't the kind of brave the old songs knew how to sing. So write new songs. About the ones who lived. They're the ones who win the wars. The bravest thing isn't to die for the people you love. It's to live for them. I have built the rest of my life on that sentence, and the rest of the Threnn future is being built on it too, slowly, song by new song. Defeat seemed inevitable, and human soldiers entered the battle, and everything changed. But not because they won the battle, because they did not, because the battle was lost and the world fell. Everything changed because the humans taught a people who worshipped glorious death, the thing our code had hidden from us for all our history. That defeat is not death, that losing a battle is not the same as dying, that the bravest courage is not the beautiful last stand but the hard, humble work of getting everyone home alive, and that a people who learns to survive its defeats is a people that lives to win its wars, while a people who dies gloriously in every losing battle is just a beautiful long song about the dead. We were going to be that song, the most beautiful song the Threnn ever sang, and the last because the beautiful dead do not live to sing again. The humans taught us to be something else instead, something the old songs had no words for, something I am still learning to call by its true name, which is not cowardice and is not shame, but is, I understand now, the highest courage there is. The courage to live and to protect and to come home and to fight again, and to win in the end the war that the beautiful dead were so eager to lose. Defeat seemed inevitable. The humans did not make it otherwise. They taught us that it did not matter, that we could be defeated and survive, could lose the battle and win the war, could come home from the falling world alive, and let the empire keep its glorious victory over an empty world while we kept the only thing that ever mattered, which was each other, and the future, and the lives that no song about the beautiful dead had ever thought to save. We lost the battle, we lived, and living, it turned out, was how we won.